My child, my beloved, I need you to stop what you are doing right now. I need you to set aside every distraction, every anxiety, every voice that has been telling you that you missed your moment, because heaven has sent a messenger today, and the message is this: the compensation is ready. Not tomorrow, not someday. Right now, in this very season, God has finalized the calculation, and the payment is being prepared. Archangel Michael was dispatched from the throne room of God with a single instruction: find the ones who have been waiting too long, the ones whose faith is worn thin from years of holding on, the ones who have been praying the same prayer for so long that even they have started to wonder if God is listening. Michael was told to bring them this word: God has not been absent. God has been accounting. There is a scroll in heaven with your name on it, and on that scroll is not a record of your failures or your shortcomings. It is a record of everything that was taken from you, every year that was stolen, every opportunity that was hijacked, every relationship that drained you instead of building you. Every night you cried alone and no one witnessed it but the ceiling above your head. Every effort you poured out that went unrecognized, unrewarded, unseen by the people around you. God saw it. God recorded it. And God, who is not just a God of grace but a God of justice, has been calculating what you are owed. This is not restoration. Restoration means getting back exactly what was lost. What God is preparing for you is something entirely different. It is compensation, a return that exceeds the original value, a repayment that includes interest from heaven itself. Because God does not break even. When God settles an account, He settles it with abundance, with overflow, with a generosity that makes what was taken look small by comparison. You have been waiting for a miracle. What is coming is not just a miracle. It is a reckoning type. I have been waiting if you have been holding on for a long time, my child. My beloved, I know what these years have felt like. I know that you have watched others move forward while you stood in the same place. You have seen people who seemed less qualified, less faithful, less deserving step into opportunities that felt like they should have been yours. You have prayed the prayers. You have done the work. You have shown up even when showing up cost you everything. And still, the breakthrough you expected has not arrived on the timeline you anticipated. You have started to wonder if something is wrong with you. You have asked in the quiet of your heart whether God has forgotten your name, whether your file somehow slipped from His hands, whether the delays in your life are evidence that you are somehow less favored than the ones around you who seem to receive blessing after blessing without the waiting you have had to endure. I need you to hear this truth. The delay was never evidence of your lack. It was evidence of the magnitude of what is coming. Every night you spent holding your faith together with nothing but willpower, God recorded it. Every morning you woke up and chose to believe again even though nothing in your circumstances had changed, God recorded it. Every prayer you prayed through tears, every moment of faith you exercised when your emotions were telling you to give up, every time you showed up faithful when the easiest thing in the world would have been to walk away, God recorded every single one. And here is the truth that heaven wants you to understand today. God is not a God who watches His children suffer without purpose. He is not a spectator who observed your pain and did nothing. He was always working. He was always moving. He was always protecting you from doors that looked like blessings but would have destroyed you. He was always redirecting things that would have pulled you off course. And through it all, He was calculating. The compensation is not an afterthought. It was the plan from the beginning. Heaven has been waiting for the right moment to release everything that has been held in reserve for you. Not a trickle, not a gradual improvement. A comprehensive settlement of every debt that was owed to your destiny. My child, my beloved, I want you to picture something. Picture an archer standing in an open field, a powerful bow in his hands. He reaches into his quiver and selects the finest arrow, the one that has been crafted with precision, the one that was made for the greatest shot. He notches the arrow against the string, and then he pulls back. Now, from the arrow's perspective, that moment of being pulled backward feels like opposition. It feels like resistance. If the arrow could think, it might say, "Why am I being held back? Why am I not flying forward yet? I was meant to fly. I was made to move. But instead, I am being pulled away from my destination, away from everything I was created to reach." That is you. That is what these years have felt like. The pulling back, the resistance, the sensation of going backward when everything inside you knows you were made to go forward. But here is what the arrow does not see in the moment of tension. The further it is pulled back, the more power is stored in the draw. The more resistance it experiences in that backward tension, the more velocity it will carry when it is released. The arrow that was pulled back the furthest will fly the farthest, will hit the hardest, will reach what no casually released arrow could ever touch. You were never delayed. You were being loaded. Every year that felt like stagnation was kinetic energy being stored in your spiritual bowstring. Every disappointment that sent you backward in your own eyes was God increasing the draw weight, increasing the stored potential, increasing the force that will be behind you when He releases you into your destiny. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." God has always known the plan, and the plan required this tension. Not because He is cruel, not because He wanted you to suffer, but because what He is sending you toward requires a power that cannot be manufactured by an easy life. The shot He is preparing demands an arrow that has been fully loaded. You are not behind schedule. You are being loaded to capacity for the shot that will define your life. And when the fingers of God open, when He releases the tension He has been holding in the bow of your destiny, nothing will be able to stand between you and where you are going. Not the people who doubted you, not the circumstances that tried to hold you, not the years that seemed wasted, not even the enemy who tried to convince you that you missed your moment. When God releases an arrow, the arrow does not wonder if it will reach its target. The arrow does not negotiate with obstacles. The arrow does not slow down for enemies who stand in its path. It flies with the full force of everything that was invested in the pull back, and it strikes exactly where the hand that held the bow intended. The draw is complete, the aim has been set, and heaven is about to open its fingers. Type "I am the arrow" if you feel this in your spirit. My child, my beloved, I need to speak to you plainly about something that heaven refuses to leave unnamed. There has been an enemy at work in your life. Not an enemy made of flesh, not a person you can point to on the street, but a force that operates through people, through circumstances, through systems, through the choices of others, and this force has dedicated itself to one purpose: stealing your time. Think about it honestly. Think about the relationships that consumed years of your life and gave nothing back. Think about the people who took your loyalty, your energy, your best efforts, and used them to build their own lives while yours stayed still. Think about the opportunities that were given to people who were less prepared, less faithful, less deserving, not because the world was fair, but because someone with influence chose to overlook you in favor of someone they preferred. Think about the generational patterns that were handed to you before you were old enough to choose the cycles of lack, the cycles of broken trust, the cycles of poverty or emotional devastation that ran through your family line like a river that swallowed everything it touched. You did not choose those patterns. They were imposed on you, and they cost you years that should have been spent moving forward. Heaven recorded every stolen moment. Not one day was lost from the divine ledger. God saw the relationship that took 3 years of your trust and handed it back in pieces. God saw the job that consumed your prime years for a fraction of what your gifts were worth. God saw the friendship that drained you dry. God saw the family dynamic that made you spend decades becoming something other than what you were created to be. God saw the moment someone chose someone else for what was rightfully yours. God saw it all. And here is what separates God from every human judge who has ever looked at your case. He does not just see what happened. He sees the full value of what was taken. He calculates not just the original loss, but the compound effect of that loss, every door that failed to open because that door was closed, every relationship that could not bloom because that soil was poisoned, every year of potential that was not realized because someone or something redirected your path. Heaven does not just measure what was stolen. Heaven measures what the theft prevented. God is not just going to give you back the years. He is going to give you back the years plus everything those years would have produced if they had not been stolen. Because God is not a God who settles for minimum. He is a God who compensates with abundance. The people and systems and patterns that took from you cannot keep what they stole. The spiritual law of divine restitution is now in motion. What was taken from you unlawfully in the spirit realm must be returned, not by your effort, not by your confrontation, not by your demand, but by divine law, enforced by the God who wrote the law in the first place. Type stolen years if someone or something took what was yours. My child, my beloved, I want to take you into a place that only heaven can show you. I want to show you the ledger of stolen time. In the throne room of God there are books, not metaphors, books. Records kept with a precision that surpasses any accounting system ever devised by human hands. And one of those books bears a title that I want you to let settle into your spirit: The Ledger of Stolen Time. This ledger contains your name, and on the pages assigned to you, there is an entry for every moment that was taken. The night you cried until you had no more tears recorded. The morning you got up and kept going when every cell in your body wanted to stop recorded. The year you spent investing in someone who was already planning to leave recorded. The effort you poured into a dream that collapsed because someone else pulled the foundation out from under it recorded. The moment someone looked past you for a promotion, a position, an opportunity that matched your gifts perfectly recorded. The season you spent rebuilding from a devastation that was not your fault recorded. The years that the locust ate recorded. Every single entry in that ledger carries a corresponding value, not a vague spiritual value, a specific calculated compensation amount, because God did not keep these records to mourn over them. He kept them to settle them. Joel 2:25 says, I will restore to you the years that the locust has eaten. But I want you to understand something about this verse that is easy to miss. God does not say, I will show you that the years were not really lost. He does not say, I will help you feel better about the time that was taken. He says, I will restore, past tense in terms of divine certainty. This is already decided. The restoration and the compensation are not possibilities, they are certainties that are waiting for your season of release. The ledger of stolen time has been kept open for years. Every entry has been carefully documented. Every calculation has been made with divine precision that considers not just the surface loss, but every ripple effect that loss created in your life. And now that ledger is being closed, not closed as in forgotten, closed as in the accounting is complete, and the settlement payment is being drawn up. There is a profound difference between restoration and compensation, and I want you to feel that difference in your spirit today. Restoration says, here is what you had before it was taken. Compensation says, here is what you had, plus what it would have grown into, plus what your suffering cost you, plus the interest that accumulated while you waited, plus a heavenly surplus that reflects the character of a God who refuses to simply break even with his beloved children. The world operates on restoration at best. Courts award damages. Insurers reimburse losses. Human systems try to return you to baseline. But God is not operating on a human system. He is operating on a divine standard that says when one of his chosen ones has been robbed, the settlement is not calculated based on the face value of the theft. It is calculated based on the full scope of what the theft prevented, every blessing that was delayed, every breakthrough that was blocked, every season of joy that was stolen before it could bloom. That is the number God has been calculating, not the simple loss. The compound loss, the original theft plus every downstream consequence of that theft across every area of your life. Imagine a court case that has been building for years. Evidence gathered, testimony recorded, every incident documented, and then one day the judge looks at the case and says, the documentation is complete, the verdict is in, the compensation is determined. We are ready to pay. That is where you are today. The documentation phase of your life is ending, the payment phase is beginning. There is something holy about the closing of a ledger. It signals a transition from the season of recording to the season of release. For years, God was in the season of recording, watching, documenting, noting every entry that belonged in your account. That season served its purpose. It built the case. It established the full scope of what is owed to you. But that season is now complete. The ledger is closed. The case is decided. The judge has rendered his verdict. And the verdict is in your favor not because you argued it perfectly, Not because you had the right human advocate, but because the evidence was undeniable, and the God who presides over the court is not swayed by the power or influence or position of those who wronged you. God has looked at every page of your ledger, and he has calculated a number that will make you understand why he let the process go as long as it did, because what God is releasing into your life is not a modest repayment. It is a settlement that reflects everything that was stolen, everything those stolen things would have produced, and the interest that has been accumulating in heaven's treasury while you waited. This is not restoration, this is compensation. And the difference between the two is the difference between getting back what you lost and receiving so much more than you lost, that the original loss begins to look like the price of admission to something far greater than you could have reached without it. Type "God sees me" if you know heaven has been watching. My child, my beloved, I need to say something that the church does not always say clearly enough, something that the culture of spiritual niceness has sometimes softened to the point of losing its power. What God is about to do in your life is not just an act of grace, it is an act of justice. Grace is when God gives you something you did not earn and did not deserve. And grace is beautiful and necessary and real. But what is coming to you now is something different. What is coming to you now is justice, the enforcement of a divine law that says that what was taken unlawfully must be returned, that the thief cannot profit permanently from his theft, that the one who was robbed does not absorb the loss and carry it forever while the robber enjoys what he stole. God is a just God, and a just God cannot look at the record of what was stolen from you and simply do nothing. A just God cannot watch the tears you cried over years of your life that were consumed by forces that had no right to consume them and call that situation acceptable. A just God does not leave the account unbalanced. The compensation that is coming to you is the fruit of justice. It is heaven enforcing its own law on your behalf. And here is how the compensation is structured in divine terms. There are 3 tiers. The first tier is restoration. What was taken from you will be returned to you. The relationships of quality and depth that were replaced by counterfeits, they will be restored. The financial ground that was lost, the opportunities that slipped away, the confidence and identity that was eroded, all of it begins with restoration, with God putting back in your hands what was removed. But restoration is only the beginning, because God's justice does not simply break even. The second tier is compensation for the time itself. Not just the things that were lost, but the time in which they were lost. The years themselves have value. The seasons of your prime that were consumed by things that should never have consumed them, those years carry a price tag. And God is paying that price tag. Every year of delay that you experience beyond what was necessary in God's plan is a year that God will accelerate in your future. Not just return to baseline, accelerate. The third tier is the interest. This is what makes divine compensation different from any earthly settlement. Heaven does not just break even. God gives back sevenfold. He does not return what was lost and call it done. He returns it multiplied, enhanced, carrying the weight of everything it would have grown into if it had never been stolen, plus the supernatural surplus that only God can add to a human life. What was taken from you unlawfully in the spirit realm must be returned by divine law, not by your effort. You do not have to pursue what God is reclaiming on your behalf. You do not have to fight for it, scheme for it, manipulate for it. Let heaven be the collector. Let God be the enforcer. Your job is to receive. Your job is to position yourself to be found by what is being sent to you, to open your hands and your life to the settlement that has been prepared. This is one of the most important things to understand about divine compensation. It does not require your aggression. It does not require you to confront the people who wronged you, to demand repayment from those who cannot or will not give it, to spend your energy pursuing what the enemy stole, when the God of heaven has already dispatched the collection process. When you try to collect what God has assigned himself to collect, you shift your posture from receiving to striving, and a striving posture cannot hold what an abundant God is trying to pour into it. Open your hands, open your life, release the grip on the grievance, and let the God of justice be the one who settles the account. The peace you gain from releasing the outcome to God is not weakness. It is the wisdom of someone who understands that the collector God is sending on your behalf is infinitely more capable than any force you could send yourself. And understand this: the ones who took from you cannot permanently hold what was never lawfully theirs. The enemy may have gotten hold of it temporarily, but the statute of limitations in heaven does not favor the thief. When God says enough, no person, no system, no principality can resist the collection. They cannot hide it. They cannot permanently enjoy what was taken from God's chosen one. The ones who took from you cannot hold on to what was never rightfully theirs. The compensation is not coming because you demanded it. It is coming because God's law demands it. Type "Justice is mine" if you believe God will make it right. If heaven's words are finding you today, stay close. Subscribe so these messages reach you in the exact moment you need them most. My child, my beloved, heaven now releases 3 specific blessings over your life. These are not generalities. These are not vague spiritual encouragements. These are targeted, specific acts of divine compensation that are being released into your life in this season. Open your spirit and receive them. The first blessing is the collapse of your timetable. You have been working with a human timeline. You have been calculating what is possible based on how long things take, on how much time you have already lost, on the math of human years and human seasons. And when you do that math, the numbers look discouraging. You look at how much time has passed, and you wonder how the years that remain can possibly compensate for the years that were consumed. But God does not work on human time. And when God compensates for stolen years, He does not add years to the end of your life to make up for the ones that were lost. He compresses your timeline. He accelerates the pace of your progress to a rate that has no human explanation. What others built in a decade, you will build in a season, because God is accelerating your timeline as part of the compensation. The things that should have happened years ago will not arrive late. They will arrive accelerated, coming at a speed that makes up for the gap, coming with an intensity that compresses years of normal progress into months of supernatural advancement. Your business will grow at a rate that confounds the experts. Your relationships will deepen with a speed that reflects divine appointment rather than slow human development. Your influence, your provision, your healing, your breakthrough, all of it moving faster than the calendar, faster than the economy, faster than the limitations that your circumstances would suggest. Heaven is collapsing the distance between where you are and where you were meant to be. And what was meant to take 10 years will arrive in 2, because God does not compensate by adding time, He compensates by multiplying results. Receive the collapse of your timetable. The second blessing is financial compensation. I am not speaking about a general sense of provision or a vague feeling of financial peace. I am speaking about specific, targeted financial justice, the enforcement of heaven's law in the material realm of your life. There are financial channels in your life that were blocked, resources that should have reached you that were diverted, income that was earned but never fully received, investments of time and energy and faithfulness that produced nothing in the natural but have been accumulating interest in heaven, financial opportunities that were taken from you by people who were in the right position at the wrong time, people who benefited from your work, your ideas, your faithfulness, without giving you the return that was rightfully yours. Heaven does not just restore your finances. It settles the account with interest. The money that was lost in ways that made no sense, through unexpected expenses that should never have happened, through relationships that cost you more than they gave, through seasons of lack that had no natural explanation, that money is coming back to you. Not from the same channels, not through the same doors. Heaven does not always return what was taken through the door it left through. It returns it through doors you never expected, through sources that will make you understand that only God could have orchestrated this, through a convergence of provision that arrives too precisely and too abundantly to be anything other than divine settlement. Your financial compensation is specific, it is targeted, it has your name on it, and it is in motion now. Receive the financial compensation. The third blessing is relationship compensation. The years you spent in the wrong relationships were not just personally painful. They were costly in a way that goes beyond the emotional damage. They cost you time that could have been spent in relationships that built you up. They cost you the experiences of love and partnership and deep connection that should have been filling your life. They cost you the version of yourself that would have emerged if you had been loved correctly from the beginning. God sees that cost, and God is not going to give you a diminished version of love as a consolation prize for the years you spent in the wrong place. He is not going to give you something that is merely adequate or merely better than what you had before. The relationship that God is preparing for you does not just replace what was lost. It compensates for what was lost. The depth of connection you will experience will be so far beyond what you experienced in the seasons of your delay that those years will seem like a small price for the extraordinary thing that is coming. You will not need to catch up. You will not feel like you settled. You will not look at what others built over long years and feel behind. The one God brings will bring with them a quality of love and alignment that makes the waiting make sense. And you will understand, in the fullness of that relationship, that the years you spent learning what you did not want, learning what you would not settle for, learning the depth of your own capacity for love, those years were preparation, not waste. You will not spend years catching up. You will step into the depth immediately because you were both being prepared for this meeting, and the preparation was thorough. Receive the relationship compensation. Type "I receive all three" if you accept this compensation. My child, my beloved, there is something that happens to a person in the years of waiting that the world calls damage, but heaven calls formation. The world looks at someone who has been through years of delay, years of struggle, years of things not working out the way they should have, and the world says, that person is behind. That person is struggling. That person has been through too much to fully recover. Heaven looks at the same person and says, that person has been through the fire that refines. That person has developed a character that cannot be manufactured by comfort. That person knows things about faith, about endurance, about the deep places of the human heart that no easy life could ever teach. That person is not damaged. That person is ready. You are not breaking, you are birthing. The pressure you feel right now is not the pressure of destruction. It is the pressure of emergence. It is the feeling of something new pushing its way into the world. And the reason it feels like it might tear you apart is that what is being born is larger than what you have been carrying all this time. The new thing God is releasing into your life does not fit the old container. The new identity, the new season, the new level of your life, it requires a bigger version of you to hold it. And that expansion is painful, but it is not the pain of an ending. It is the pain of a beginning. Mountains are climbed in silence. The people around you may not have seen what you have been doing in the hidden seasons. They may not have witnessed the prayers, the processing, the growing, the changing. They may not have noticed that while your external circumstances looked static, your internal world was being rebuilt from the foundation up. That is because mountains are climbed in silence. The most significant transformation of a human life rarely announces itself in the moment it is happening. It announces itself in the arrival, and your arrival is coming. The old version of you that needed external validation, that needed other people's recognition to feel that your efforts were worthwhile, that version has been replaced. You have been anointed for arrival, not for approval seeking, not for the exhausting work of convincing people of your value. For arrival, the moment when what God put in you can no longer be contained or ignored or overlooked, when the anointing speaks louder than any person's opinion of your potential. Your identity is shifting in this moment. You are no longer the one who waits. You are the one who receives. You are no longer the one whose season is coming. You are the one whose season has arrived. And the compensation that heaven has prepared is not looking for you in the future. It is finding you right now. Type "I am ready" if you are done waiting and ready to receive. Before we continue, if this message has brought confirmation to your spirit today, consider sowing a seed of faith into this ministry. You have been in a season of waiting, of holding on, of believing for the compensation that heaven has promised. And a seed is the most powerful act a waiting person can make. It is a declaration planted in the ground of your faith that says, I believe the harvest is real, and I am already moving toward it. Every gift you give helps heaven's words reach more chosen ones who are still waiting in their delay season, still trying to hold their faith together, still needing someone to tell them that their compensation is ready. Visit the link in the description below, or scan the QR code on screen. Your generosity is not just a gift. It is a declaration that you believe God moves through faithful channels, and that the seed you plant today is part of the harvest that is coming. My child, I am speaking now, not through angel, not through messenger. I am speaking to you directly. I am the one who has watched every moment of your waiting. I am the one who has kept the record of every day that felt like nothing was happening, when everything was happening beneath the surface. I have been watching every moment you thought I had forgotten. I saw you in the darkness of the nights that never seemed to end. I saw you in the early mornings when you got up before the rest of the world and whispered prayers that felt like they were dissolving into the ceiling. I saw you in the ordinary days when there was no dramatic struggle, just the quiet weight of hoping for something that had not yet appeared. I did not forget. I was calculating. Every day that you waited has been entered into the ledger. Every tear that you cried in the secret places, the ones you never showed anyone, the ones you swallowed quickly before anyone could notice. I saw those tears. I numbered them. They are precious to me, not as evidence of your weakness, but as evidence of your faith. Because you kept crying and kept believing at the same time, you kept hurting and kept holding on at the same time. That is not weakness. That is the most powerful kind of faith I know. The number of days you waited, the number of tears you cried in silence, the number of times you kept believing when your circumstances gave you every reason to stop. I counted all of it, and I want you to hear this from me directly. The counting is finished. The accounting is complete. The number has been determined, and it is larger than you have allowed yourself to hope for, because you have been trying to believe for something reasonable. You have been trying to keep your expectations realistic so that disappointment does not destroy you. I understand why you do that, but I am asking you today to let your expectations expand to match what I have prepared, not what you have been able to imagine. What I am about to release is not just what you lost. It is what you are owed. I am not a God who gives back the minimum. I am not a God who says that is enough when I could give more. I am a God who compensates. I am a God who sees the full scope of what the enemy has stolen from my beloved children and responds with a generosity that makes the theft look like a terrible miscalculation on the enemy's part. He thought he was stealing from you. He was giving me a reason to settle your account with interest, because I am not a God who breaks even. I am a God who compensates. And so I say to you now, come home to this truth, not to a feeling, not to an emotion that will fade by tomorrow morning. Come home to the truth that is written in the scroll with your name on it. The truth that is recorded in the ledger of heaven, the truth that has been settled in the courts of divine justice before you ever heard these words today. The waiting is over. The arrow has been pulled back far enough. The aim has been set with a precision that only I possess, aimed at a target that only I can see from where I stand. And I am about to release it, not because you performed well enough, not because you finally earned it, but because the season is complete, the compensation is calculated, and I am a God who keeps every promise I have ever made. Isaiah 61:7 says, "Instead of your shame you will receive a double portion, and instead of disgrace you will rejoice in your inheritance. And so you will inherit a double portion in your land, and everlasting joy will be yours." A double portion, not a partial restoration, not a modest improvement. A double portion of everything that was taken, everything that was lost, everything that was withheld, and on top of that, everlasting joy. The kind of joy that is not dependent on circumstances, because it comes from a source that circumstances cannot reach. That is the compensation. That is the promise. That is what has your name on it today. Type double portion. If you receive God's promise right now, my child, my beloved Archangel Michael stands before you now with the final blessing of this message. And he speaks these words over your life as heaven's declaration, sealed in the authority of the living God. May every year that felt wasted now become a weapon in your hands. May you look back at the seasons that felt like nothing and understand that they were forging in you a strength that no easy path could have produced. May the very experiences that the enemy used to discourage you become the testimony that breaks chains in the lives of everyone who hears you speak. May every door that closed in confusion now swing open with clarity. May the doors that shut in your face, the ones that felt like rejection, That felt like God saying no when you were sure you were supposed to walk through. May those same doors, and greater ones, open before you in this season with a clarity that removes all doubt about whether you belong on the other side. May the one who stole your time find that they cannot spend what was never theirs to take. May the compensation that was stored for you be completely inaccessible to those who tried to claim it for themselves. What heaven has reserved for you cannot be redirected. What God has written in your ledger cannot be erased. What the divine law has determined belongs to you will reach you, because heaven is the most reliable courier in existence. May your hands, which have reached so long in vain, now receive without delay. May the outstretched arms that have been empty for so long find themselves suddenly, abundantly, overwhelmingly full. May you receive so much in this season that you forget what it felt like to reach for something and come back with nothing. May the compensation arrive in ways too specific to be explained, too precise to be coincidence, too abundant to be anything other than God. May you know, without any possibility of doubt, that what is coming to you is from heaven. May the fingerprints of God be so obvious on every blessing, every opening, every settlement, every abundance that arrives in this season that you never for a single moment wonder whether it was luck or circumstance or your own effort alone. It is God. It was always going to be God. And God has arrived. Type Amen if you receive this blessing over your life. This channel exists because of the faithful ones who sow seeds into this ministry. If God has spoken to you through this message, if you felt the compensation promised land in your spirit, if you heard your name in these words, if something in these pages reached a part of you that has been waiting for exactly this word, let this be your act of faith today. Sow a seed not out of obligation, not out of pressure, not because you feel you have to earn the blessing that has already been promised to you, but out of the certainty that God honors those who invest in what He is doing, out of the knowledge that when you sow into ground where heaven is moving, you are not giving something away, you are placing something where it will multiply. Visit the link in the description below or scan the QR code on screen. When you give, you are saying, I believe the harvest is coming, and I am already moving in faith to meet it. That declaration, made through the act of sowing, is itself an act of the faith that heaven responds to. Someone in your life right now is still in the middle of their delay season, still believing that their years were wasted, still waking up in the morning and doing the math and coming up with a number that discourages them, still wondering if God forgot their name, if they missed their window, if the compensation that others seem to be receiving somehow has their name removed from the list. Share this message with them. Do not let them spend one more day believing a lie about their season. You may be the angel God sends today, not with wings, not with a trumpet, but with a simple act of pressing share and letting these words find the person who needs them. Because the compensation is not just for you, it is for everyone whose name is in the ledger. And the ledger has many pages, many names, many seasons of stolen time that heaven is ready to settle. Be the messenger. Pass this on. Let someone know today that the compensation is real, that the promise is specific, that the delay was never the final word. Type sharing this. If you know someone who needs to hear this, my child, my beloved, we have arrived at the end of this message, and I want to leave you with the image that has carried us from the beginning to this moment. The arrow has been pulled back far enough. The tension in the bowstring has reached its maximum. Every year of waiting, every night of tears, every morning of choosing to believe again, all of it has been gathered into the draw. The force is stored. The potential is loaded, and the aim of the hand that holds the bow is perfect, directed by an intelligence that sees the target more clearly than you can imagine and has never once missed. You were not late, you were being loaded. Say that to yourself again, not as a platitude, not as a comfort phrase to cover a wound. Say it as a truth that is rewriting the story of your past and the expectation of your future. You were not late, you were being loaded. Every single thing that felt like delay was actually accumulation. Every single thing that felt like going backward was actually increasing the force of your forward momentum. And the velocity that has been building in your life through these years of tension, it is about to be released. You did not waste those years. Heaven invested them. The distinction matters enormously. A wasted year is gone, producing nothing, accounting for nothing, mattering to no one. An invested year is a year that is generating a return, a year that is in heaven's ledger as a line item that contributes to the final total. A year that, when God compiles the compensation, makes the number larger. Every year you thought was wasted was actually a year that God was investing in your compensation package. The interest was accumulating the whole time, and the return on that investment is arriving now, not someday, not eventually, not in a vague future season that you have to keep hoping for. In the season that begins the moment you receive this truth, the moment you open your hands, the moment you shift from the posture of the one who waits to the posture of the one who receives. Walk forward, chosen one. Not because the path is clear, the path may still look uncertain from where you stand, not because every question has been answered. Some of the answers will only come as you walk, but because the one who holds the arrow never misses, because the aim was set before the arrow was notched, because the target has a name on it, and that name is yours. And heaven does not release an arrow toward a target it does not intend to hit. The compensation is ready, the ledger has been closed, the settlement is being delivered, and you who have waited, you who have held on, you who have prayed when prayer felt like shouting into emptiness, you are the one it was always meant to reach. Walk forward, receive. The arrow is flying type. I am launched if you are ready to fly.